Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're doing something a little different.
Oh,
Yeah, we're not looking at research papers or news articles or anything.
okay.
We're diving into excerpts from a collaborative story project.
Interesting.
And it's wild. Like you would not believe what I'm reading here.
Well, now I'm curious. Lay it on me.
Okay, so imagine, picture this. A naked Slavoj Žižek
Oh, okay.
running off with your milk,
He's naked.
completely naked.
All right, I'm intrigued.
And get this, his justification is he's going to distribute it evenly.
Well, that's certainly an attention-grabbing way to start a story.
Right.
Using Zizek like that, who's known for, those complex philosophical arguments, putting
Yeah.
him in such a mundane situation
And absurd.
really sets the tone.
Yeah, it's humorous, but it also makes you think.
Absolutely.
It's like they're saying, hey, let's take intellectualism down a notch and plop it right into everyday life.
Right. And this scene from chapter X.22.
X.22.
Yeah. It introduces us to this chaotic world they've created in this collaborative project.
But it also makes you wonder about Zizek's actions, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Like, are they actually in line with Marxist principles?
well, I mean, Marxism focuses on, the struggle between social classes
Right.
and advocates for a more equitable distribution of resources.
So you're telling me,
Well, I mean, he does say he's going to distribute the milk evenly.
but then he steals a car.
Yeah. That's not exactly...
Like sharing is caring.
No, not quite a textbook example of communal sharing.
It's like, okay, dude, you just said you were all about even distribution, and then you go and steal a car.
Exactly. It really highlights the contradictions
Oh, yeah.
in human behavior. I mean, maybe even within ideology itself.
You think?
Yeah, even those who preach certain principles.
They don't always follow them?
No, they don't. And the footnote,
Oh, don't even get me started on the footnotes.
the one referencing the X-Men, come on.
It's like a layer of absurdity on top of absurdity.
It's just like these little Easter eggs of weirdness.
Sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, it's like the authors are winking at you saying, hey, we know this is ridiculous.
But then the story takes this sharp turn.
It does after the milk heist.
Yeah, we suddenly shift to a scene with a young woman, and it just says, he.
Uh-huh.
It's the other character, unnamed he.
It's disjointed, right?
It is. It's like whiplash.
That's a hallmark of this collaborative piece.
You think it's intentional.
It feels deliberate, yeah.
Like each author is pulling the story in a different direction.
Yeah, creating this fragmented, almost collage-like...
Narrative structure.
Exactly.
It's like a literary roller coaster that suddenly jumps the tracks.
That's a great way to put it. 1 minute you're with Zizek stealing milk, and the next you're in a total different scene.
Different characters, different setting. It's jarring.
And this sudden shift also highlights another theme.
Which is?
Desire and power.
Okay, how so?
Well, the scene that follows is, it's an erotic encounter between the woman and guess who?
No. Way Žižek.
Zizek.
He gets around.
Apparently. And what's interesting is that the woman is in charge.
Really?
She's the one driving the encounter.
Wow. So they're subverting the traditional power dynamic?
Completely.
That's pretty bold.
It's a challenge to those typical representations of female sexuality.
The whole, passive and submissive.
Right here, she's assertive, she's in control.
It makes you think about how gender roles are evolving in society.
Absolutely. And then there's this line,
Which one?
their pleasure became ideology.
Ooh.
That's a loaded statement.
It is. It's like, on the surface, it's just an observation.
About the intensity of the experience, right?
But knowing Žižek
Oh, yeah.
and his work,
It takes on a whole other meaning.
for those who don't know who Žižek is.
Well, he's a Slovenian philosopher.
He is famous?
He's known for his sometimes controversial ideas about how ideology shapes our desires.
And how those desires reinforce power structure.
Exactly. So when the story says pleasure became ideology,
It's suggesting that even our most intimate experiences,
aren't free from the influence of ideology.
it's a very Žižekian concept.
It adds this layer of intellectual complexity.
To what could have been just a straightforward scene.
Exactly.
But this is just the beginning
Oh, yeah.
of the bizarre turns this story takes.
We haven't even gotten to the rhinestone cowboy Wittgenstein.
Or the talking dog.
Or the sudden death of a dog named Slavoj.
It's, what is even
It
happening?
just keeps you guessing.
You never know what to expect next.
And that seems very intentional.
Right. Like they're saying, buckle up
This is going to be a wild ride.
through the unfiltered imaginations of a bunch of writers.
Exactly. And then there's this line
Oh, yeah.
that completely breaks the fourth wall.
Which one?
Collaborative story time is disgusting. It should be banned from children.
Okay. Wow, they really went there.
It's so meta.
It's like they're acknowledging the chaos of collaborative writing.
And the potential for absurdity.
It's like they're poking fun at themselves.
And the whole process.
Of trying to wrangle a coherent narrative out of all these different voices.
Right. And it makes you think, can we even find meaning
in these collaborative endeavors?
Or are they just inherently chaotic and disgusting?
That's a big question.
It is, and it's something we're going to have to keep thinking about as we delve deeper into this very unusual story.
Before we move on, we have to talk about the ending.
Oh, yes. The ending.
It's jarring.
It is very sudden shift to first person.
Yeah, and the narrator talks about returning from hyperspace.
Hyperspace, what is that?
I don't know, it's open to interpretation.
Could be the chaotic realm of collaborative writing itself.
Maybe a space where logic and coherence don't exist.
Yeah, like a metaphor for the creative process.
Where ideas just collide and recombine in these unexpected ways.
Leading to a final product that's both fascinating and totally perplexing.
Or maybe hyperspace is something else entirely.
Right.
Maybe it's a metaphor for the surreal nature of the story itself.
A journey through a landscape where the familiar and the bizarre are constantly bumping into each other.
I like that whatever it represents,
Yeah.
hyperspace is a powerful symbol.
Adds a layer of mystery.
To this already unconventional narrative.
And the fact that it reappears at the very end,
Yeah.
it suggests that it's important to the overall structure and meaning.
It's like a recurring motif.
That binds together all these seemingly random elements.
Yeah, this collaborative project is full of surprises.
That's for sure. It's like they're emphasizing that hyperspace is important.
Yeah, like it's not just a random one-off.
And that reappearance, it coincides with another shift in the narrative.
More of shifting again.
Oh, yeah. From that dreamlike sequence, we move to Chapter X.
Chapter X.
Not 10X, the Roman numeral.
Okay, are they messing with us?
Maybe it's like they're signaling a break from what came before.
A shift to something more structured?
Yeah, but potentially more grounded.
Okay, I'm intrigued what's in Chapter X.
Well, the excerpt we have sets a completely different tone. It's almost noir-esque.
Noir, like detectives in fedoras.
Exactly. There's this description of a dark, gritty, futuristic city.
What's it called?
Mega City 4.
Mega City 4. That's pretty cool.
It is, and our narrator is, well, they're unnamed.
Still
unnamed. Sipping whiskey, lost in thought about a missing jazz tune.
Wow, that is a stark contrast.
It is, right.
From the craziness of the previous chapters.
Yeah, we're suddenly in this world of shadows and secrets.
Familiar, but also futuristic.
It's a clever use of genre conventions.
You think so?
Yeah, they're drawing on those noir elements.
To create a sense of familiarity.
But knowing these authors...
They could throw us a curveball at any moment.
Exactly. You think you're getting a detective story.
And then, bam, a talking banana appears.
Exactly. It's that unpredictable element.
That keeps us on our toes.
And makes it so engaging.
But this shift to noir...
It also makes you think about the structure of the whole story.
How so?
Well, is Chapter X a completely separate thread?
Or will it connect back to the Zizek stuff?
The rhinestone cowboy Wittgenstein?
Hyperspace.
Right. It's a puzzle.
They've left us to solve.
It really speaks to the nature of collaborative writing.
Can all these different ideas and genres and voices actually come together?
To create something cohesive?
Or are they always going to be fragmented?
Big questions.
That we'll have to keep in mind.
As we explore this further.
Okay, but before we get too lost in speculation, let's take a step back.
Okay.
And look at some of the broader themes.
Right.
Desire and power.
Oh.
That's a big one.
It's not just in that erotic encounter.
It's woven throughout the entire narrative.
Even in seemingly mundane moments.
Like Zizek stealing the milk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as that can be an act of asserting power.
Of taking what you want, regardless of the rule.
And the story seems to be asking us
to think about how those desires are shaped by ideology.
By the systems of belief and power that govern our lives.
That's deep.
It is a complex question, for sure.
It reminds me of that line, their pleasure became ideology.
Yes, such a powerful statement.
On the surface, it's just about physical pleasure.
But on a deeper level, it suggests that even our most intimate desires
are influenced by ideology.
We're not as free as we think we are.
It's a thought-provoking concept.
It really challenges us to examine how our desires are shaped.
By the world around us.
Are we really in control, or are our desires predetermined?
By social, political, cultural forces.
Another big question.
One that we could spend hours discussing.
We could.
But for now, I think it's important to note.
What's that?
That these authors aren't afraid to tackle these big philosophical questions.
Even if they do it in a humorous, absurd way.
That's part of what makes this so compelling.
It is. It's entertaining, but also intellectually stimulating.
Makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
And it definitely leaves you wanting more.
And speaking of things that leave you wanting more.
Let's talk about the language.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the word choices are
A little strong.
let's just say they're not for everyone.
You're talking about the offensive language.
Yes, it's there.
It's important to acknowledge that.
But it's also important to remember
We're analyzing a piece of writing.
not endorsing the views expressed in it
Our goal is to understand the text
and its context.
and the potential impact of the language
It's possible the authors are using this language for satire,
to expose and critique societal prejudices.
but we also have to recognize
That even in satire
this kind of language can perpetuate harm.
and reinforce negative stereotypes.
It's a delicate balance,
It is one that requires careful consideration
and ultimately it's up to each reader.
to decide how they want to engage with this material.
But it's a conversation we need to have,
We can't just ignore difficult content.
or shy away from it,
It's through critical engagement and discussion,
that we can grapple with these complex issues.
and hopefully come to a better understanding.
So as we continue our deep dive,
Yeah.
let's keep in mind the power of language,
Its potential to harm and its ability to challenge,
and let's be mindful of the ethical implications,
of the choices authors make.
even in fiction,
It's a reminder that art can be a powerful force,
for good or bad.
and it's up to us to engage with it thoughtfully.
Well said. Now let's get back to the story itself.
Sorry.
We've talked about the narrative shifts,
The humor,
desire and power.
the language.
But there's one more element we haven't really touched on,
What's that?
the metafictional commentary.
Ah, yes, those moments where the story breaks the fourth wall.
Like when they talk about collaborative story time being disgusting,
It's like they're commenting on the process of creating the story itself.
acknowledging the chaos and the absurdity.
It's a really clever way to engage the reader.
Makes you think about the nature of storytelling
The challenges of collaboration.
and the often messy process of bringing ideas to life.
It's like they're saying, we know this is crazy, but come along for the ride.
Embrace the chaos.
And it's a reminder that even in the midst of absurdity,
There can be moments of genuine insight.
those metafictional
Give
moments,
like a wink to the reader,
acknowledging the artificiality,
while also inviting us to suspend our disbelief.
and just go with it.
Embrace the wild ride.
I think that's the key to appreciating this story.
Letting go of expectation
Embracing the unexpected.
and finding the joy in the chaos.
It's really metafiction at its finest.
It brings us back to that ending.
The hyperspace ending.
Yeah, it feels connected to this whole discussion about collaboration.
Right, because we have that sudden shift to first person.
And the narrator talking about hyperspace being back,
It's like the story is folding in on itself
acknowledging the cyclical nature,
of the creative process.
maybe even the chaotic nature.
After all those divergent paths and shifts,
It feels like the story is returning to its origin point
that space where ideas collide,
and recombine.
and that phrase hyperspace being back,
It's so
it
ambiguous.
raises more questions than it answers.
What is hyperspace?
Is it a place? A state of mind? A metaphor?
They leave it up to us to figure out.
To come up with our own interpretations.
It's like they're saying, here's the puzzle, now you solve it.
There's no right answer.
Just the joy of exploring and discovering.
And that's what makes this so fascinating.
Right.
We've encountered absurdity,
Provocation,
moments of brilliance,
and a whole lot of questions.
but that sense of wonder,
It stays with you.
it makes you want to keep exploring.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest one is that collaboration
Even though it's messy,
and unpredictable.
it can lead to some amazing creative outcomes.
This story is proof of that.
With all its fragments and genres and ideas.
It's something truly unique.
And it wouldn't have been possible without multiple voices coming together.
And it's also a reminder.
That meaning-making is an active process.
The authors gave us the pieces.
But we have to put them together ourselves.
And that's the beauty of it.
Each reader will create their own picture.
Exactly. And art should challenge us.
Push us outside our comfort zones.
Make us think differently.
And this story to that.
In a way that's both entertaining and intellectually stimulating.
So to our listeners, if you get the chance to read this whole story,
I highly recommend it.
it's a wild ride.
But it's worth it.
And if you're feeling adventurous,
Why not try a collaborative project yourself?
get some friends together.
See what you can create.
Embrace the chaos. Let go of expectations and have fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note,
We'll wrap things up.
thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Into the weird and wonderful world of collaborative storytelling.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep embracing the unexpected.